How did 9 lone knights manage to create an order that held all of Europe in fear? How did these poor warriors become so wealthy that they lent money to kings and invented the first banking system in history? And why does the world still fear Friday the 13th because of them? The sweltering year of 1119, when the dust from the First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, was still settling on the streets of Jerusalem. The city, freshly captured from the Fatimids, pulsed with hope. But the roads to the holy sites, from Jaffa to the Holy Sepulchre, were a true hell. Pilgrims, wealthy merchants, and simple believers from Europe arrived in entire caravans, but most never reached their destination. Bandits, Muslim raiders, and even Christian deserters robbed, killed, and made entire groups vanish. According to modern historians' estimates, thousands of pilgrims died each year, threatening the entire Crusader cause. Without safe routes, the Holy Land would lose support from Europe. It was at this moment, on the Temple Mount where the legendary Temple of Solomon once stood, that a group of 9 French knights decided to change the course of history. At their head was Hugues de Payan, a modest knight from the Champagne region, from minor nobility where the family barely held onto their castle from poverty. Hugues was no prince or famous warlord. He arrived in the Holy Land around 1115 to 1116. Inspired by the ideals of the Crusades, but disillusioned by the chaos. With him were 8 brothers in arms, mostly relatives and friends. These 9 were no random band, but a connected network, many from Champagne or Picardy, with experience from the First Crusade, where they had seen how fanaticism blended with cruelty. They settled in the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount, a symbolic site granted to them as a residence by King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. The order's name, Pauperes Commilitones Christi et Templi Salomonici, meaning poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, emphasized humility. They took monastic vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, but with swords in hand. The goal was simple: to become a shield for pilgrims, patrolling roads and escorting caravans from bandits. The first years were marked by stark poverty. They slept on straw, ate bread with olives, and patrolled on foot or borrowed horses. King Baldwin II, seeing their dedication, issued a letter of recommendation. These holy men are worthy of support. But the 9 did not stop at words. Hugues, a shrewd strategist, understood that without support from Europe, the order would perish. In the 1120s, he traveled back to France with King Baldwin II to lobby. The pivotal moment came in 1129 at the Council of Troyes, Champagne, where bishops, abbots, and papal legates of Pope Innocent II gathered. Here, Hugues met Bernard of Clairvaux, the fanatical abbot of the Cistercians, author of Crusade sermons, who despised church luxury. Bernard saw in the Templars an ideal, monk warriors blending monastery and fortress. He personally wrote the Latin Rule, the Order's Rule, 72 articles adapted from the Cistercian statute. This was a detailed code, from daily prayers, matins at 3 a.m., to combat rules: no prisoners if the enemy did not surrender, ban on pointed shoes to avoid wasting the earth. The Pope exempted the order from taxes, granted rights to their own churches and jurisdiction, answerable only to the Pope. From 9 knights, the order exploded. By the 1130s, hundreds of recruits joined, only nobles aged 20 to 60, debt-free, with clean reputations. Entry was a trial. A year as a servant, 40 days of fasting, vows before the chapter. Hugues became the first Grand Master until 1136, Godfrey, the treasurer. The 9 formed the core. They allegedly dug under Al-Aqsa, seeking relics of Solomon's temple, legends of gold or the Ark of the Covenant, though evidence is scarce. Why them specifically? The timing was perfect. The Crusades were not just war, but business. Pilgrims were wealthy donors. First gifts included land in Champagne and coins from the grateful. By the 1130s, the first fortress appeared in Tortosa, Spain, controlling trade. The Templars' activities were not mere patrols, but a global machine combining war, diplomacy, and finance. On one hand, monastic life, silence at meals, bans on alcohol, dice games, or hunting for sport, Each day began with prayers, training, and iron discipline. On the other, military might, hierarchy like an army, Grand Master, Seneschal Deputy, Martial Combat Commander, Draper Quartermaster, members divided into knights, noble, mounted, sergeants, lower, foot, or chaplains for prayers. Training lasted years in fortresses, fencing from dawn, equestrian skills on Spanish horses, siege simulations. Each knight had 2 horses, chainmail, helmet, and a 90-centimeter sword. In battle, they formed the boar's head, a wedge, shouting, "Non nobis Domine," not unto us, O Lord, and never surrendered. Defeat was a sin. Military activities were the order's heart. Initially, pilgrim escorts, 50 riders in white cloaks with red crosses accompanied 200 travelers from Jaffa to Nazareth, bandits fleeing at the sight of the symbol. By the 11th century, they built a network of fortresses, Safida, 30 meters high, where 60 knights held off 10,000 besiegers. Bagras, Chastel Blanc, hubs with granaries, forges, stables for 100 horses. In the Second Crusade, 1147 to 1149, they advised Louis VII, funded the fleet but saw failure, and learned more reconnaissance, less corruption. In the Third, 1189 to 1192, they were pivotal. At Acre, 1191, they stormed walls first, losing 20% but breaking through. In the Reconquista, Spain, they shone. In 1212 at Las Navas de Tolosa, 100 Templars routed 30,000 Moors. They were the vanguard in battles. At Gaza, 1244, 300 died, delaying 6,000 Egyptians. At Arsuf, 1187, 100 held 7,000, buying time for Guy de Lusignan. A fleet of 18 ships sank flotillas and transported treasures. Diplomacy included negotiations with Byzantium, spies in Muslim courts, agents in Damascus. Even humanitarian work, hospices for the sick, irrigation canals in Palestine, cathedral construction, round churches like Solomon's Temple in Tomar, Portugal. But the true revolution was in financial activities, turning the poor into the richest. A pilgrim in Paris deposited gold in a Templar treasury, the first in the 1130s near Notre Dame. The order issued a letter of credit, history's first check system, amount, date, seal. In Jerusalem, the pilgrim received payout without robbery risk on wagons. Genius. By the 1150s, a network of treasuries spanned Paris, London, Rome. Loans to kings became routine. Louis VII took thousands of marks for campaigns. Henry II of England, 2,000 marks for Irish castles. Richard the Lionheart, 100,000 marks for the Third Crusade. Philip II for war with Richard. By the 1200s, the order had 20,000 brothers, 9,000 estates from Scotland, Temple, to Cyprus, investing in land, mills, vineyards, yielding 100,000 livres rent. Exempt from taxes, Papal Bull of 1139. Gifts for sin forgiveness. Wealth reached 10 million gold. Legends swirled about relics from under Al-Aqsa, pieces of the true cross, crown of thorns, maps to the Grail. Alchemy, forgotten knowledge. Why were they feared? For fanaticism, they slashed mercilessly, took no prisoners. Saladin executed 230 at Hattin in 1187. For independence, kings could not judge them, only the Pope. For secrecy, rituals included spitting on the cross, renunciation of the world, kissing a sergeant's navel, obedience, rumors of Baphomet, goat-headed idol. Envy gnawed, richer than monarchs, controlling silk and spice trade. Muslims called them demons with a cross, Saladin. Europe saw a shadow empire. Philip Augustus said, "They are stronger than me." By the 1300s, 40,000 brothers, fleet-sinking Egyptian ones, fortresses like Crac des Chevaliers, 3-kilometer walls, 100 towers, held siege 4 years. Strength and unity, one for all, discipline with 50 lashes for drunkenness. They were the first special forces, sabotage, reconnaissance, investments. Born from 9, the order became a monster, from patrols to banking revolution, fortresses to curses. Hughes died poor in 1136, but his legacy, a cross that still terrifies. The Battle of Montgisard, or Ramla, November 25, 1177, was a true boom for the Templars, the moment this nearly century-old order transformed from poor guards into legendary demons with a cross. King Baldwin IV, a 16-year-old leper youth, already blind in one eye, legs bandaged, carried on a litter, assembled a pitiful army, 500 knights and 3,000 infantry, against 30,000 elite Mamluks of Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria, marching on Ascalon to crush the kingdom of Jerusalem. Saladin, confident of victory, was repairing his baggage train in Marj Ayoun, relaxed, assuming the Crusaders were weak after years of intrigue. But the Templars, about 80 to 100 brothers under Master Odo de Saint-Amand, were the key. Their reconnaissance located the enemy, and Baldwin ordered a lightning march, 200 kilometers through the desert in 60 hours without water, on starving horses. Morning of the 25th. The sun rising, Templars in the vanguard formed the Boar's Head, a steel wedge of heavy cavalry in white cloaks with red crosses. They tore through Saladin's center in minutes, swords gleaming, horses trampling Mamluks like grass, killing hundreds. Baldwin on silver litter led the reserve, breaking the flanks. The Sultan fled on a spare horse, his army scattering to Gaza, 10,000 dead. Baggage train, 1,000 camels of booty, burned. Christian losses, 700 Templars, only 3. Why the explosion? It was a miracle. A leper boy and a handful of fanatics crushed Saladin's empire, the Lion of Islam, whom all feared. Europe heard, Templars, immortal, one worth 100. Saladin himself admitted, against them, it's like fighting demons with a cross. The legend spread through chronicles. William of Tyre wrote, they are God's shield. Bernard of Clairvaux's sermons, and pilgrims, the order became a symbol of superhuman strength, discipline, no panic, fought to the last, and faith. Recruits flooded in, from 300 brothers to thousands, gifts, land, gold. Templars became not just warriors, but machines of God, more popular than kings. The decline began slowly, like a shadow from the cross after the peak in the 13th century. First came battlefield defeats. Hattin, 1187. Templars lost 230 brothers without surrender, but Saladin executed prisoners and Jerusalem fell. The Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, revived them. They took Acre Jaffa, but spent treasures, loans to Richard the Lionheart, 100,000 marks. By the 1200s, the order was a giant. 20,000 brothers, 9,000 estates, fleet of 18 ships, banking empire, letters of credit, Czech prototype. But success was a trap. Wealth, 10 million gold, and independence, answerable only to the Pope, irritated kings. Envy grew. Philip Augustus of France whispered, "They are stronger than me." In the 13th century, cracks appeared. Fourth Crusade, 1204. Templars condemned the sack of Constantinople but lost trust. Fifth, 1217 to 1221. Siege of Damietta. 300 brothers died heroically, but the campaign failed. Sixth, 1228 to 1229. Frederick II regained Jerusalem by diplomacy. Templars in the shadows. Seventh, 1248 to 1254. Of Louis IX, a disaster. Mansoura, 1250. 500 Templars captured, ransomed for 800,000 bezants, treasury emptied. 8th, 1270. Tunis, the master died, order weakened. Fall of Acre, 1291. The end. 1,000 Templars fought in the last stronghold, but Cyprus evacuated the rest. The Holy Land lost. Decline accelerated. Internal rumors of heresy, rituals spitting on the cross as symbol of renunciation, legends of Baphomet, the horned idol, royal debts. Philip IV of France owed 500,000 tournois, kingdom's budget. Pope Boniface VIII, 1294 to 1303, clashed with Philip, Templars as buffer but target. In 1305, Clement V, French king's puppet, moved the papacy to Avignon, church in Philip's pocket. Climax, October 13th, 1307, Friday the 13th, mass arrests of 2,000 brothers across France. Charges: heresy, sodomy, idolatry. Fabricated, evidence from torture, red-hot iron, racks, water. Jacques de Molay, 71-year-old master, confessed under pain but recanted. Council of Vienne, 1312, issued Bull Vox in excelso. Order dissolved. Treasures confiscated, vanished in secrets to Scotland or Portugal, becoming Order of Christ. De Molay burned at the stake in 1314, cursed Philip and Clement, "In a year to hell with me." And indeed, Pope died a month later. Cancer. King. 11. Stroke. The order vanished, but legacy remained. Friday the 13th is betrayal symbol, Grail legends, shadow power, from heroes to ghosts in 200 years.